with that all having been said, I think it is now time to get this Subway Series discussion out of the way. And we've got John Quinn from Atlanta, Georgia. How's it going, John?
Good, man. Thank you for having me on again. It's been fun. The first time was fun. I'm glad to be back. It was great running into you at the game on Friday. A lot of fun. So, thankfully the Mets came out on top. But
speak for yourself.
I hear the grumbling and the groaning. It was good though. It was a good time. It was a good experience. Felt good to be back in the ballpark.
Yeah, no, definitely. I have been missing that so much in 2020. I was so happy to be able to get to do that a lot, and to see you and pretty much the whole gang on Friday night. That was an absolute blast. It was a weekend that, to say the least, I will never forget. And to go even further than that, I don't think I've ever seen a game forget Subway Series. I don't think I've seen any game at Citi Field that matched the intensity that I saw on Saturday and Sunday. It was insane. But of course, the one game that we all went to together was kind of the boring one, because that was the blowout. Mets ended up winning that one 10-3. And really the only things I could take away from that one, Gary Sanchez, if you Yankee fans like me haven't seen enough of this guy by now, like behind the plate, I really don't know what to tell you. Like, how do you not tag the guy out? Like, this is Villar. This is Sanchez. He was like halfway between the plate. There is no reason he should have been saved. Joey Gallo made the perfect throw. I mean, say what you want about his offense. He's either walk, strikeout, or home run hitter, but nobody is complaining about his fielding. In fact, you could even make the case that his fielding has saved the Yankees bacon during their 13-game win streak. Gary Sanchez should have tagged Villar out. And granted, I know Joey Gallo did hit a home run to give the Yankees the lead, but they had that meltdown in the third inning. Basically, Montgomery, he gave up a single, and then he walked 3 straight guys. Mets tied the game. And then Gio Urshela, who's really kind of fallen back to earth this year, he had a throwing error, and that was what gave the Mets the lead. And they had a few more runs this inning. I think it was like a doubles and singles. It wasn't really any hard hitting that inning, but
McNeil had a drag bunt too.
Montgomery's best starts.
Yeah, it was a lot of small ball. I think McNeil had a drag bunt too that ended up bringing in a run.
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. There was like nobody positioned to throw the runner out at home. It was really an ugly inning overall. And the Yankees just that whole day really didn't look fundamentally sound. And then Baez pretty much put the nail in the coffin in the 4th inning. This was pretty much over like halfway through. I don't really know. There's nothing more I can really say about that game.
Well, no, neither can I. I mean, one thing I will say, though, is that Tyler McGill, I mean, I know he's a rookie. You can't really rely on a rookie too much. I know the Mets have been really fortunate with his performance last year. They were super fortunate with Peterson was sort of the exact same way last year in the shortened season. But, I mean, this guy, they've been leaning on him heavy, especially with DeGrom out. And I know he's had a couple bad starts here and there. I think a couple starts ago, he gave up like 6 runs in 2 innings, and they pulled him. But I mean, the dude was lights out. I want to say he went, only gave up the 2 runs through 7 innings. I think he had 8 strikeouts or something like that. I mean, he was lights out. He was reliable. I mean, what more could you want from a rookie? Especially in a big moment like not only the Subway Series, but the Subway Series during 9/11, in a time where such significance to New York City and both teams. I mean, he really showed up in what was probably the biggest game of his career thus far.
Yeah, well said. I mean, I don't know what we're going to expect from him, like, down the road. I mean, You never really know with these rookie pitchers. Like, sometimes they'll have those good flashes to, like, start the season. They'll have that one really good stretch for, like, the first few months. But then it's all a matter whether he can adjust to the hitters or, like, the hitters adjust to him,
Exactly.
So you really never know. Yeah. The Yankees have had those rookies like that, too. So it's
Well, you look at Peterson as an example. I mean, Peterson was great last year. I mean, he came out this year. People had high expectations, hoping that he would build upon the performance he had last year. And I don't know if he was in his own head, but he definitely had a sophomore slump. I think people figured him out a bit, and then his season was cut short by injury. So, hopefully McGill, who definitely played in the same farm system as Peterson, be able to learn from his teammates' mistakes and won't make those same mistakes in his own career.
Yeah, no, definitely, for sure. I know Tom probably is rooting for him too. Tom, the host of Review and Preview, fun fact, I've probably said this once before, he actually shares a birthday with Tyler McGill, so that's actually pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
and tells you
Absolutely,
how
man.
much older we're getting too. It's crazy. But anyways, now let's move on from that debacle. Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about the game that we were all looking forward to this weekend. Now, game 2, I don't know if you saw that pregame, but good Lord, that was
I
the
saw
most
pieces. It was intense, for lack of a better
that
term.
was one of the more emotional pre-games I have ever seen. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking both whether I've watched it on TV or being at a game live. I couldn't help myself, but like, I was losing it. Let's put it that way. Like,
Right.
to see all those Mets from the 2001 team with a lot of the people who were helping out around 9/11, and to have the whole backdrop of like those now granted, I'm not a Broadway fan whatsoever, although I do know a few of the stars. You had a lot of them like singing, like I think they were singing like some song like on the scoreboard before the game. That was pretty cool. And then the whole renditions of the national anthem, just insane. And
Right.
everything about the ceremony was just amazing. And the fact that they brought Joe Torre back and Bobby Valentine to throw out the first pitch, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I thought that was just a really nice touch.
No, absolutely. I mean, dealing with something as serious as this was, I mean, it was an incredibly intense event. It was incredibly emotional. It was super evocative. But I think they handled it well, especially for, 20 years. That's a massive anniversary. I mean, you and I, we were children when it happened, but, so many people weren't. So many people have far more vivid memories of that time than we do. So, I think they really did a good job trying to, honor the first responders and, not only to, remember all the people that lost their lives that day, but also remember the aftermath and how New York and the rest of the country sort of came together as one. Putting aside the differences, whether it be Bronx, Queens, boroughs, whatever the case may be. Just unity. New York. We're all New Yorkers, all in this together type thing. I think
Yeah.
they really captured that well, but pretty interesting game too.
And, I think the other thing that was pretty cool, like, I have never seen any team like have two people of the opposite members standing right next to each other, like
Right.
on the baselines before the game. To have like one Yankee and one Met standing right next to each other,
Right.
that was amazing. And then to hear the crowd break out into a thunderous chant, USA, USA, I loved it.
I did too, man. I mean, it's reminiscent of the game between the Mets and the Braves following 9/11, where Piazza hit that home run. I mean, I don't think they stood side by side necessarily, but I remember there was this big congregation at home plate before, and that USA chants broke out as well. So, really reminiscent of the events after 20 years ago.
Yeah, that game, Paul, Dom, and I touched upon that on our last show, but that game definitely, I would say it's one of the more emotional games in not just New York baseball, New York sports history. Because
Absolutely.
to see Piazza hit that home run, amazing. And then, obviously, of course, we talked about the whole pregame ceremonies, but, I kind of forgot, lost within the whole matter, there actually was a game itself. And speaking of
Absolutely.
getting into the game, we've got a comment here from our buddy Nick Lombardi. Nick says, "Let's go Mets." Nick, thanks for the
LFGM.
comment. Guys, if you want to comment and join us in our discussion, please do so down below in the comment section. We would more than love to hear your opinions. We would more than love to interact with you guys as well. It's always more fun when we get comments talking about the game.
Absolutely.
It makes our show. But anyways, the Yankees, obviously, as you remember, they took an early 5-0 lead. You had home runs from Kyle Higashioka, Brett Gardner, and Aaron Judge. The latter of the two were back-to-back. Made it 5-0. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. I was going nuts like everybody else, but this was also tempered by the fact that you realized it's the Yankees pitching in like the middle to back end of the rotation. And we've seen this bullpen have clunkers time and time again. So I really couldn't get too excited. But with that having been said, I wasn't quite expecting the Mets to get close that soon because they got 3 runs in the bottom half. Javi Baez hit a home run to make it 5-4.
He's been so good lately.
Yeah, no, he really has. And it's funny. It seems like he's been using the thumbs down as like a fuel to his fire, wouldn't you say?
I mean, he seems like one of those guys. I don't want to, give a false comparison, but he almost reminds me of Baker Mayfield in a sense where he plays better when there's a chip on his shoulder. You know what I mean? Like he needs some type of motivator or And whether it be like, do you remember in the '90s, Shaq made up some story about how David Robinson had snubbed him when he was a kid, and it started like this ridiculous beef, and so he always went out and like, you know, would put up his best against the Admiral, and then it was this whole thing, but like came out years later and was like, yeah, that was a lie, that never happened. I just needed something to motivate me. Baez reminds me of someone like that. He needs some type of external motivator, even if it might not necessarily be that. Whether it be, the fans booing him and him giving the thumb down and embracing, the villain persona, for lack of a better term, whether it be, everything going on with the whistling sign stealing scandal, whether that's real or not, whatever the case may be. I mean, he seems to do better or play better when there's some type of external factor motivating him. So maybe it's the fact that he was annoyed about the sign stealing, went out there and just absolutely demolished the baseball. I mean, but he's been good, especially, I mean, when they first got him, first hit as a Met was a home run, but I mean, he got injured, wasn't playing well before the injury, but since he came back, I want to say he's batting, over that period of time since he's come back off the IL, I want to say he's batting like 330 or something like that, with something stupid like 8 home runs or something. Like he's been real red hot, and he's catching fire at just the right time.
So I have Javi Baez's page. I'm pulling it up right now. I'm looking up his stats. This is what he's done over the past 15 games this year. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Actually, no, forget that. I'm going to give you the last 30. So he's got a 318 batting average.
Okay.
8 home runs and 15 RBIs. If that's not carrying a team.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me, and putting them on your back, I don't know what that is.
Oh, neither do I. I mean, you could look at the Mets roster and say like, oh, well, we need to bring back Stroman. We need to bring back, Conforto or Aaron Loup. But I think realistically, probably the person that we should look to bringing back the most is probably Javi Baez. Whether it be the connection he already has with Francisco Lindor, how he seems to jive well with the locker room, the fact that he is a stellar defender. I mean, he's probably the best defender on the Cubs prior to being traded. I mean, he brings such value to a team. I think we would be foolish to let him walk in free agency.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to at this point, because then how's that trade going to look?
Well, exactly, right? Like, okay, you got him for a rental, and and in my opinion, I mean, their whole thing is, playoffs or bust, especially after the big stink that Steve Cohen has made. So you bring a guy in. Granted, they gave up like next to nothing to get him, but when you bring a guy in, he's a very loud, outspoken personality with a big bat. Expectation is you make the playoffs. You make a move like that to make the playoffs. If you don't, and then you let him walk, I mean, I don't know how you could chalk that up as anything other than a loss.
Yeah, and especially if Pete Crow Armstrong turns out to be a star, which,
right.
Again, I don't know if that's going to happen. I feel like Met fans, obviously we saw Met fans complaining about that trade because of Pete Crow Armstrong, but the fact of the matter is Pete Crow Armstrong hasn't played a game in the major leagues. Like,
absolutely.
Most Met fans probably never even heard of the guy, like, before he was even mentioned in the trade, and like after they knew Javi Baez was struggling. Right. So I don't know if it's really fair to just assume, just because he's a big prospect, he's going to pan out. Because no,
right.
At the end of the day, a prospect is basically a lottery ticket.
Well, exactly.
They're either going to do well or they don't.
Yeah, just like any other draft pick, it's all a crapshoot. You never know what's going to happen with the draft. You could get a stud with the first pick. You could get a bust with the first pick. You could find a hidden gem. Piazza was taken in what, 61st round, or 61st, 62nd.
Yeah, I think he was the 62nd.
Yeah, so
and
I mean,
he was lucky enough to have Tommy Lasorda as pretty much. I don't think he was his godfather, but I know he was a very close
connection. Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly, but you can find value at the draft at any position. Just because you're taken with a high pick, whether it be first round or second round, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to equate to a superstar. I understand more of the frustration that Mets fans, myself included, had when they traded. I forget how you pronounce it. It's either Kelenic or the guy who's playing for Seattle. Yeah, that made more sense because he was being compared to the greats like Mike Trout. And then you bring in Robinson Cano, who's been suspended for PED use. It's not the first time he's been suspended for PED use on the ridiculous contract that he is. And Diaz didn't pan out at first, at least. At least at the moment, he's looking the best he has since Seattle. So
he's still kind of hit or miss, though.
Yeah, but he
still has the shaky moments.
Yeah, but he has been far more consistent than that first year in New York. So I'm definitely less salty about it now. But I would, like you said, we don't know how Crow Armstrong's going to turn out. But if he turns out being great, I feel a little less upset about it if we were still able to retain Baez.
For sure. And so let's get back to this game. So the fourth and fifth inning, nothing really happened. And bottom of the sixth, that was when I kind of knew the trouble was going to start. Lucas Litke allowed a leadoff walk to Jeff McNeil. And you just know, I don't know about you with regards to when you watch Met pitchers, but this year for me in particular, because the Yankees bullpen all season long has been an absolute gas can. Whenever you see a leadoff walk, you just know 9 out of every 10 times it's not going to end well.
Yeah, I mean, growing up a Mets fan, we've had pretty atrocious bullpens over the course of the last decade, so I know the feeling. We've been better this year for sure, but believe me, I know the feeling all too well.
Now, granted, Litke was removed immediately after they walked McNeil, which, again, I think was probably over-managing, but Litke's generally a lefty specialist. He's one of those guys. He's basically what Boone Logan was for the Yankees in 2010. I don't know if you are familiar with that name, but he was the guy that they would bring in late inning situations. You have a left-handed batter coming up. Boone Logan was a lefty, and they try to get him out. He was what used to be called the LOOG, loogie, basically, left-handed out guy. I don't know if you've heard that term, but now with the whole,
but I like it though.
Now with the 3-batter minimum, that's like extinct. But in any event,
I don't like
that gets removed. Anyways. Oh no, I can go on about the terrible rule changes that Rob Manfred's made to the MLB, but that's a story for another day.
Another podcast.
Chad Green comes in, he strikes out Pilar, but then he gives up a home run to James McCann, and it really wasn't looking good. And then the next inning, they got another run. It seemed like it was going to be insurance. Like I believe it was Kevin Pilar who hit an RBI single. Actually, no, that wasn't Chad Green. That was Clay Holmes who gave up that run. But Chad Green was the one that gave up the home run. And Chad Green all year long for the Yankees seems like he's given up a bad home run at the wrong time. Twice to Jose Altuve. And you look at, oh my gosh, I'm losing track of it. He's had so many bad games this year. But it's just another example of the Yankees bullpen not being able to hold the lead. And fortunately, though, in the eighth, they made some magic. That was when Trevor May came in, Gardner hit the single, and then Aaron Judge hit a fly ball that I thought was going to be an out because I was looking at the left fielder as he was running after the ball. It looked like he had it, and then all of a sudden the wind must have just blown it right over the fence. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they tied it. And I was like, it was like, wow. But I was pleasantly surprised, but I will take that. And, they get the go-ahead run when it looks like Luke Voit was going to hit an inning end double play, but then I believe it was Javi Baez who threw that ball away, trying to get the guy out, get Luke Voit out at first. So go ahead run scored. The Yankees took the lead, and I still didn't think it was over though, because in the ninth inning, Chapman came on. He gave up a double, but then nothing really happened afterwards. He got the save, and the Yankees, they survived this. And on one hand, I'm looking at this series like, the Yankees lost 2 out of 3. They should have at least won 2 out of 3. If you want to look at it the other way, the Yankees could have easily gotten swept.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it could have gone, aside from game 1, I mean, game 3 could have really gone either way also. I mean, really kind of came down to the wire. I mean, you could say the same thing about game 2. I believe Alonso flew out to the warning track to end the game. So let's just say that's a home run. I mean, Mets could have arguably swept also, but I don't know. I was hoping they would take this momentum and ride it into St. Louis, but that has not worked out for them at all.
Yeah, that Alonso fly ball, that was crazy. Like it looked a lot. It was eerily similar. And I know you're going to hate that I'm using this comparison. It looked eerily similar to Mike Piazza's fly ball. Last out, ninth inning, game 5 of the 2000 World Series, October 26, 2000. Hits a fly ball that looks at first glance like it's a home run, but then you see Bernie Williams camped right at the warning track and he makes the catch.
Right.
I saw a lot of similarities with it. And it's funny, I kept seeing on Twitter, Pete Alonso couldn't pull the Piazza. Instead, he pulled the Piazza in 2000. I was like, no, those are two very different situations. But that's Twitter.
Well, I mean, Pete, he's been good. He has over 30 home runs this year. You can't win them all. As hard fought as it was, I mean, I think they were resilient, not, putting their heads down after Taijuan Walker gave up 5 in the second. They battled back. McCann has been hit or miss. I mean, he had a home run. Baez has been playing really well. I mean, you fight a game like that, and you're within one run. It's like, as a Mets fan, there are so many games where the pitcher, whether it be Stroman, whether it be Walker, whether it be DeGrom, McGill, whoever the case may be, you'll give up like 2 runs and you'll lose by 1. And that's soul crushing because there's no excuse for that. But correct me if I'm wrong. The final score was it 7-6 or 8-6 or 8-7? Yeah. So I mean, but if you're putting up stuff like that, I mean, you actually score runs and you lose the game by 1. That's fine. I'd take that loss over a pitching duel that's an absolute gem, but the Mets just can't hit for crap. I'll take that loss I'll take the loss against the Yankees on 9/11 every single time. Right. I'll also take the win against them on the 12th every single time.
Well, obviously. The crazy part about the second wasn't just the game itself. It was you had 2 guys like running out onto the field, causing a distraction. It's like, wait. This is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. You're going to have 2 guys just run on the field? What was that all about? Well,
I saw a clip of this one guy. It was alarming how little forethought he put into it. He was just getting hyped out by the crowd, and he was just like, yeah, all right, and he just hopped it. It's like just no thought, just did it in the moment, live in the moment, carpe diem, bud.
I mean, I can't even imagine doing such a thing like that and actually
You'd be banned for life. You'd be banned for life, and I don't know how anyone could, weigh the prospects of that and be like, yeah, this is totally worth it. My 15 seconds of fame before I get absolutely demolished by the security guards. Like, doesn't seem worth it at all to me, but seems a little distasteful given the date that it was.
Now, of course, the real game in this series that was crazy was the third game.
Oh, yeah.
And, I get right in. I actually left MetLife Stadium and then got to Citi Field right after. Me and my friend, we ended up getting like last-minute tickets to the third game as well. That's how maniacal I am.
Well, I don't blame you for leaving MetLife, given how the Giants were playing.
No. I saw pretty much most of it. It was like I saw pretty much most of it, if not the whole game. But
right.
It was right when at the tail end that we got there. We only really missed the first inning, which wasn't really. And even though there were 3 runs, it wasn't really too bad. You had Stanton hitting a double and Joey Gallo hitting a sacrifice fly, and then Conforto hitting the RBI single. But right when I got in was when all the fun started, because that was when Lindor hit his first home run, which was a 3-run job, and I'm trying to remember who the pitcher was when that happened. I think it was. Wait,
I can't remember.
Tell me. No, I'm trying to. Oh, it was Schmidt. What am I saying? Clark Schmidt was the starter. He was one of the not rookie. He hasn't. Actually, I think he is. He hasn't really pitched much in 2020, so he technically still is a rookie. He spent most of the year in AAA.
Right.
Hits a 3-run home run off of Schmidt, and then you fast forward to the 5th inning. You have the bases loaded. They put in Andrew Heaney, and for the Yankees to give up only 1 run in that situation was a miracle, because I can't tell you enough how much of a disaster the Andrew Heaney acquisition has really been for the Yankees. And I still don't get why the thinking that getting him would somehow fix the Yankees rotation. I mean, after all, the guy did have an ERA well above 5 when he was with the Angels, but
right.
It is what it is. He only gave up the 1 run, and then Gleyber Torres hits the 2-run home run, top of the 6th. It's a ball game again, but then, just when they get closer, Lindor, solo home run number 2, get it to 6-4, and this is where things get interesting, because this is when Baez is chirping at the Yankees dugout at Stanton, he's shouting, "Hey, they're throwing this pitch."
Right.
Pitch with whistling.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, the whole I guess what they're saying is it was a carryover of what was going on in Game 2 with I forget the pitcher's name, but he was whistling, which they were saying was sign tipping, and whether it be someone in the dugout noticed that whether it was Taijuan Walker putting the ball into his glove a certain way, or he was doing something differently that the batter wasn't picking up on. I have no issue with sign stealing. Just throwing it out there. I mean, so long as you're doing it the right way. You got someone in the dugout that's just got a keen eye, or someone on second base where he can, has a clear view of whatever McCann's doing behind the plate. I mean, people have been doing that for forever. It's when you involve technology and things like that, like what the Astros and what the Red Sox were doing, where, I think we take issue with it. If you can pick up on something like that naturally over the course of the game, more power to you. But outside influence, whether it be technology or otherwise, that's where I draw the line, but
Yeah.
the whole Lindor and Baez chirping, I guess that was a carryover. I don't really understand it, because it's like, I don't know why you're getting upset. If it was you in that situation, you would have done the exact same thing. But hey, like I said, Baez is one of those guys where he needs the sort of external motivator. So, him and Lindor, I think, the energy that both of them have, it bounces off of each other well. So, one of them gets, hype about something, the other one is too. So it sort of creates like this super macho alpha, energy that just gets thrown into the world. And hey, as long as they're doing well, I have no issue with it. And Baez had a great series. Lindor hit 3 home runs in the game. So who am I to criticize? Whatever gets you going, gets you going.
And oh my gosh, that brawl after Stanton hit the home run.
Right.
Like, that was great. I was just getting entertained
Right.
the whole night. And then you had all those fans, and then you had so many fans like chirping at each other too. It was banana land.
Oh, it was great.
Like,
one thing I will say though is I respect Garrett Cole a little bit more now. Like if you just go back and watch like the whole bench clearing, I mean, the dude vaulted. He looked like, yeah, I'm about it. I'll throw hands. And
that guy was dealing with a hamstring injury too. Let's not forget.
But you don't get that vibe listening to him in the post-game interviews. And maybe it's, because he's got a kind of weird croaky voice, or he says, for Pete's sake, but he just doesn't give you that. You don't get that vibe from him. You know what I mean? Not like, hey, yeah, no, like these guys, they're my guys. I'm willing to go to bat for them.
No, he has like the California cool attitude,
Yeah, but I don't mind that. I like a guy that, when the situation dictates, you can get fired up, you can have your guys back. So it's definitely, sticky substance crap in the past. He definitely has my respect after being ready for that. So no disrespect.
All I can say is Lindor. I think Lindor and Baez at times were overreacting to Stanton. But then again, Let's be real. I'm just glad for your sake that Giancarlo didn't legitimately want to go up and fist fight the two of them.
He's a behemoth of a human being.
You know damn well that would not end very well.
Baez isn't a big guy. Lindor's my height. Stanton, I forget how tall he is, but I mean, the dude, he looks like he's on roids. I know he's not. I know for a fact he's not, but I would not want to be hit by him. Let's just put it that way. So, I would not want to catch those hands. Plus, being that big, he's got the reach, just a recipe for disaster.
So then, obviously, as we know, we get to the 8th inning. We're tied up. Who pitches the 8th inning? Chad Green. Are we that surprised he gives up Lindor's 3rd home run?
Probably not.
No.
I will say this though. Lindor has definitely had a rough start to his career in Queens. And I understand. He's coming from Cleveland to New York. Say what you will about the Mets being, the second team in New York. Whatever. I don't care. I don't get it. You do you. Everyone has their opinion, but New York is New York. Very different market than Cleveland. It's going to take some adjusting. It took Jay Bruce adjusting. I would say it took Cespedes adjusting, but it didn't at all. He picked it up pretty quick.
Cespedes at least won a pennant for you, so I'll give you Cespedes.
But Lindor, it's taken him some time, but since he's come back from his injury, since he's gotten to play with his buddy Baez, he's looked lights out. I mean, I think he's been looking for something, a spark of sorts, or a memorable moment. His first memorable Mets moment, I think his 3 home run game in the Subway Series is definitely that, without question.
Yeah, for sure. And whether that sparks him to more great things from the Mets, who knows? Mm-hmm. And we can talk about his contract situation all we want. And then, in the 9th inning, you knew Edwin Diaz was going to make things interesting in the 9th, though.
Oh, he always does. I have confidence. I have more confidence in him this year than I have in the past by far. But I mean,
he puts runners on base. He walks Rizzo, and then you have Tyler Wade pinch running for DJ, who hit the first single, and then you had Stanton coming up, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, this is a big moment, but not meant to be. And
fine by me.
I know, fine by you. You know what's weird? I've also noticed another pattern this season. So besides Chad Green giving up multiple big home runs, I mentioned the ones he had on Saturday, the one he had on Sunday night, and then he also had the 2 he gave to Jose Altuve. And of course, as I mentioned, he had other big moments where he gave up home runs and he took the lead. He actually blew a save against Chicago too. And when they took a a game they won. He gave up a home run in the ninth inning, and they still found a way to win. I don't know whether it's been overuse or whether it's just been typical him having to pitch a lot. He just has not been great this year. But then, looking at this series, like, it was everything you wanted in a Subway Series, really.
Absolutely. I mean, every game except for the first one was really a game. I mean, I know that I was more than thrilled with the first one. They won by a lot, but every game was close. You were on your seat, you're the edge of your seat rather, every second of every game. It was especially coming down to the end, whether it be Stanton in game 3 or Alonso in game 2. I mean, it could have gone either way. It was you can't ask for better baseball than that.
And what's amazing? This is probably one of the few times you'll really see a regular season game have World Series-like atmosphere. And,
right.
As a Yankee fan, I'm going to be honest, Citi Field during big games, your fan base brings it when it's a big game in late September.
We're passionate. And, say what you will about the Mets and their playoff aspirations. I believe we're 5.5 games back from clinching the division outright and 4.5 from the wild card. They're fighting every game, whether the box score reflects that or not. But, we're passionate. We've got 2 World Series rings, and we remember them very fondly. But, we also remember 2015 pretty fondly, too. We remember that feeling, how electric it was and how soul-crushing that defeat was. So I think Mets fans, I don't want to say more than anyone else, but we in particular are chomping at the bit to get another opportunity like that. So, if there's something we could do, whether it be bringing intensity in the stands or whatever the case may be, we're more than willing to do it because we want to get back to there because we have faith in our team more so than I think other people have faith in us by far.